now to go to our next speaker. And I think after listening to Pauline, after listening to Jim, you'll see why we think it's so important just to understand what happened through individual stories. But I saw that one person who checked in that would be known to a lot of people on this webinar is Malachi McAllister, whose family was attacked just off the Ormeau Road. And if you think that was in any way atypical, if you think that wasn't what happened to many people, if you think his story was different or exaggerated, I want you to listen to our next speaker, Jim Clinton, who also lived just off the Ormeau Road. And he's going to tell his personal story of why he signed the letter asking for truth and justice. Jim, welcome.
Thank you, Martin. I'm delighted to be involved today and to put across a personal aspect of what happened to our family, but that's typical of the 3,500 people who signed it, and they'll all have their individual stories. Well, I'll start off and I'll follow on a bit from what Martin said. Most of you do know Malachi McAllister. Malachi lived 2 streets from me. I was there the night his house was attacked, and Malachi and my brother are married to 2 sisters. So we come from a very small area in South Belfast, which was surrounded by Unionists and Loyalists. Probably to give you a sort of an idea and a feel for what size it was roughly about a quarter of a mile by 400 or 500 yards, literally 10 or 12 streets, and there was over 40 people killed. One of the big attacks, obviously, and I'm sure people in America would remember it, was the Sean Graham Boogies. We also had the Rose and Crown Bar, which happened in 1975, and there were 6 people killed there. And in every street, there was people killed, every street. So my story is, I met Teresa as my childhood sweetheart. We lived next door to each other. Forgive me for being emotional. I've been talking about this for almost 27 years. It doesn't get any easier. It's difficult, but I hate to let people down. I hate to let relatives of justice down. They have been a rock for me, for my family, and for numerous other families. So I'll try and get through it without being as emotional as and angry as I can. We grew up together. We started going out. We were married very young. I was 18. Teresa was 19. We bought our first house before we were married, and we settled on the Ormeau Road. In 1994, Danny made a wee mistake, and I'll not hold it against him. He said 1991. In 1994, the 14th of April, I was working as a taxi driver in West Belfast. I'd been out at work. I'd come home from work. I took my youngest daughter with me, who was 3 years of age. I took her to work with me to give Teresa a break. Siobhan, as everybody knows, is my youngest, my baby, who's almost 30. Her sister, there's 10 years between them. She was 12 when her mother was killed. Siobhan was 3. When that day happened, we met up in town. Teresa took Siobhan home. I worked late that night, which was unusual. I was home for around 11 p.m. I came in, I spoke to Teresa. I had a headache. I said I was going to bed. She said she would follow me up the stairs. In the house, we had security, as in bars on our doors, grills at the bottom of our stairs, because we always thought that there would be an attack on the house. We had moved numerous times and securing each house as we went along. There wasn't bulletproof glass in the windows, but there was laminated glass. It wouldn't have stopped bullets, but we were hoping it would have stopped someone coming in the window. I went to bed. I was still awake. I heard thuds. I heard Teresa squealing. I heard shooting. I ran out onto the landing. I called Teresa. I ran back in again. I looked out the window. I seen the car driving off. And as I stood at that window, seconds later, not minutes, seconds later, a police car pulled up. They didn't follow the car down the street. They came to my door. I ran down the stairs. I knew by looking at Teresa, she was dead. I could see by the injuries, she was dead. I looked at the front window and the blind had been opened up and there was a concrete block sitting on the settee. The people who fired through the window seen a woman sitting in her nightdress and they hit her 23 times. It wasn't a spray of a living room. It wasn't what they said that they killed me and injured her. They knew what they were doing. They deliberately targeted her. And that was borne out in killings after that. And one of them has been mentioned today, Roseanne Mallon, Kathleen O'Hagan. They went in, and if the husband or the son was not there, they killed the women of the house. Kathleen O'Hagan was 7 or 8 months pregnant when she was murdered. So I came downstairs. I threw the concrete block out the window because people were starting to gather outside and they were looking in. I went to the front door. I opened the door and there's a policeman standing at my door. The same policeman who arrested me for having a bunch of keys, the same policeman who arrested me because I had the audacity to grow a beard, and the same policeman who harassed myself and Teresa when we were pushing our child around the district to go and visit grandparents. That's who was at my door. The same person who didn't drive after the people who killed my wife. I closed the door, refused to let them in. My friends came to the door, I opened the door, I let them in. They came in, and eventually the ambulance came. The ambulance man came in and he spoke to me, and he says, Jim, Teresa's dead. I said, I know Teresa's dead. He says, you have to let the police in. I said, I'm not letting them in. There was a standoff with the police, and I agreed to let the detectives in, not the uniformed police. So I left the house with my daughters. Roseanne had heard the shooting. Say she was 12, almost 13. Siobhan had just celebrated their birthday a month before. We have lovely photos of that in that house, with Siobhan celebrating her 3rd birthday. I took him to my sister-in-law's and my sister who lived on the other side of the street. When I tried to get back into Teresa, the same policemen would not let me in to be with Teresa's body. Eventually, I got back into the house. That's the start of it. What then happened after that compounds everything that happened that night. Witnesses seen the people who were driving the car. 3 of them were prepared to identify the person on identification parade. They went to the police station, but the police read out their names and address in front of the leader of the Unionist death squad that killed Teresa. 2 of them moved house within Belfast quickly. The other one went home to live in Derry because they were petrified of being targeted by this person and his gang. So that was the start of it. They colluded with him in the police station so he would be released. The HET report says there was 10 suspects in her murder. 2 were arrested. They all live within a mile of my house. 2 of them were arrested, the other 8 weren't arrested. That's how much they thought of Teresa and her killing. I've spoke to the police twice in 27 years, and I was a witness. Once was during the wake, and once was at an inquest. Then you go back further when Brian Nelson brought weapons into the country and was also targeting people. A British agent who put 2 people into a park facing my house and had them watching my house. Targeted by a British agent who worked for Britain, who imported guns, and that were used, and as Mark pointed out, on numerous killings after that shipment of weapons came in. I have met with the police ombudsman. I've asked questions there. I've asked for the ballistics of the weapons. Was there any history in them? 5 years later, they can't tell me. But if I was to use a weapon, and if I was arrested, they can get forensics and ballistics reports within days. The only thing I know is that the Sterling submachine gun that was used to kill Teresa is an old British Army weapon and an old RUC weapon. The Ruger handgun that was used is an RUC issue weapon. Surely they can tell me after 5 years if those weapons were used in any other killings and where they came from. But they choose not to. Sure, why would they? They don't care. We've went to courts. We've tried everything. Our families are torn apart. My oldest daughter is now older than her mother when she was killed. I have now 4 grandchildren. They ask about their granny. They know what happened. That is something a 6, a 7, and a 9-year-old or a 12-year-old child should not know, should not need to know. But they go along, they want to be part of it, and we want them to know what happened. But we would also like them to have a normal life where they don't have to do this, and it would stop with us, and the British government would eventually tell the truth. And the RUC stroke PSNI would stop going to court and blocking families at every step. At every step. Not all our families are politicized. And I would say the majority of them aren't, but they're becoming politicized. But most of them want to get on with their lives. Most of them want their children and their grandchildren to have a normal life. All they're asking for is the truth. Why can they not tell the truth? Because they're hiding something. Why can they not tell me the truth about the weapons that was used in Teresa's killing? Because they're hiding something. Why can they not admit that Brian Nelson was targeting my house? Because they're hiding something. In the gang that killed Teresa, it has already come out in court that one of them was a British agent. This is not something that we're making up. The evidence is there. If people like Ralph's for Justice can pick through stuff and get evidence and names and addresses and times and dates, why can the PSNI stroke RUC not do that? Because they don't want to. Because as far as they're concerned, who's Teresa Clinton? Who cares about Teresa Clinton? Well, we care. Her family care. And we will continue, even though it's hurtful, even though it's sad, even though it makes you angry. And I've told Mark Thompson this numerous times, when he comes to, they ask me to do stuff, Mark, it's so hard. This will annoy me for a week. It annoyed me for a week coming up to it, worrying about it, nervous about it. I told my kids what was happening. I've since remarried. I married Roseanne. Roseanne's husband was murdered by the same gang. Her three children are crying out for the truth. Her grandchildren are crying out for the truth. I'm sure there's others like us, but it's hard. It's hard. It's hard come Christmas. It's hard come anniversaries. It's hard come birthdays. When Roseanne's youngest son, Kieran, and Siobhan, when we all lived together, and the kids have all grown up and moved out now, but when we were all at home, it was so difficult to take two young kids to a grave on Christmas morning and then take them to another grave on Christmas morning to pay their respects. I don't know whether we done the right thing doing that. I hope we did. We would like the kids to remember their father and their mother, but we found that extremely difficult. The older kids, they withdrew into themselves. Hopefully, at some stage, they'll be able to live a normal life, as normal as possible. This year should have been a very happy year for us. Siobhan's 30, young Roseanne's 40, I was 60, Teresa was 60. This all happened in 1 year. What a celebration that would have been. We would have been in New York. We would have been visiting family that we have in America. I asked people in America, as you have done for numerous years, help us get the truth. Put this out of our mind. Let us get on with a normal life. Help us and help the 3,500 other people who are on that list and the many more who could have been on that list to have a normal life. Thank you very much.